Okay, well, welcome everybody. Sorry about the delay. Lucky you being the first one. You're the first firm we're interviewing. So I guess I'll turn it over to you, Mike, let you kind of start things out.
Thank you. I have a brief opening statement I'll read, and then I'll turn it over to our city manager after that. Thank you for coming. Today is February 21st, 2022. This is the interview meeting between the City of Leesburg and Briones for request for proposal 220042 for City Attorney Services. An interview session has been scheduled with the top 4 ranked firms. This interview provides an opportunity for Briones to address each of the questions asked by the commissioners or the city manager. The interview is scheduled to be 45 minutes in length. The time will start when the first question has been asked. The interview questions have not been provided to any of the 4 firms. I'll turn it over to Al.
We, as promised, we did make up some questions for y'all. I don't know how y'all want to proceed with it, whether you want just the mayor to ask the questions or split them up or any formal process.
I say we split it up. I mean, were these questions you wanted to ask in their entirety, or were these just?
First, I would leave that up to you guys. And, it's kind of formally informal. We can go off the script or go with the script. Do you guys have a preference?
I don't have a strong
preference.
preference.
I'm okay with just going with these, and I'm fine, Mayor, if you want to just ask the questions too. I mean,
I would say that would keep it easy.
Yes.
You ask the questions and then feel free to follow up.
Okay. So we are now broadcasting all the questions to the other firms in advance if we go off script.
We'll change the order.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Mike Peterson. Welcome. Let's see. We'll start off with, I'm reading off a script here.
We're not going to get through all these in the time allotted. That's the other thing is like, if we go, I'm okay with any of these questions on here, but we'll get through like maybe a third of them if we just go down this list, I think.
Okay.
Would be my only concern with that.
Yeah. Well, let me.
I'll prod you along and skip wherever and we'll start out. Is there any particular questions in there that you guys like more than the others? Yes.
Well, how about this? I'll start with, we'll mix it up there. We'll go in order. So I'll do the first one, and I'll let another commissioner, they can skip over if something's important. We'll just go around the table. That way, if I skip one, rather than me just skipping over which ones I don't think are important, we'll just take turns, and commissioners can jump around and skip.
Once you start with Jimmy and you guys hit the ones you want, and because we won't go by order.
Bear with us, because we're not going to get through all these. We're not going to get through all these questions.
The ones you like.
So, okay, I'll start with the first one. Just kind of introduction. Just take a few moments and provide the commissioners with, backgrounds on your firm, your qualifications for city attorney.
So I'll start. My name is Mark Briones. Our firm was established in 2017, July of 2017. Prior to that, we both worked at Macklin Burnshead. I started at Macklin Burnshead in 2004, straight out of law school. And worked directly under Fred Morrison until 2017 when I left. I also worked with Steve Johnson, who was city attorney before Fred Morrison. When I worked with Fred Morrison handling city matters, I attended meetings, sometimes mostly just coverage when he wasn't able to attend, but I did do all the background work. I handled contracts, dealing with purchasing, code enforcement. We had some trials on civil forfeitures, preparation of ordinances, resolutions, planning and zoning meetings I attended, assisted with some of that work as well. The public hearing process for those, certainly had some input in those and worked with Fred on that. But again, everything Fred did for the city, I did as well. And I know Stephanie has some experience working with Fred as well, just in a different area. My area was more in the civil litigation, civil area contracts. I would file lawsuits on behalf of the city to collect on promissory notes for computers and those sorts of things. I filed some eviction actions to have individuals removed from property that the city ended up taking, those sorts of things. But my experience working with Fred, again, I covered just about every issue that this city would come across. Our firm, again, established in 2017 after we left Macklin-Burnshead. And when we left, we certainly took a number of our clients with us. And with regard to experience in municipal law, local government, and that sort of thing, in 2017, when we opened our firm, we started handling City of Tavares matters for Bob Williams. Mr. Williams was in the process of winding down and looking forward to retirement, so I started handling meetings at the City of Tavares for him. Did some planning and zoning meetings, code enforcement meetings, city contracts. When he was gone, they would contact me for any issues they came across, either by email, phone, and send me assignments. So again, similar to what I did for the City of Leesburg, I started doing that for the City of Tavares. Some civil forfeitures for the City of Tavares as well. We shut down a number of the gaming locations. I forget, fish games or whatever they want to call them. We shut those down, 3 of them for the City of Tavares, but you know, things have changed since that point in time, and so they've decided to stop going in that direction. So we did that from 2017, I would say, to 2020, 21. And at that point, we started doing less of the city work and started representing the police department. And that was through Stephanie, and I don't know if you want to give them information on that.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Briones, and like Mark, we opened our firm in 2017. I started working for Macklin-Burnshead as a law clerk in the summers. My parents live in Leesburg, and they moved to Leesburg from Michigan in 1999. So I followed them here, despite their wishes probably. And while I was at UF in the summers, I worked at Macklin-Burnshead as a law clerk for 2 summers, and they offered me a full-time position as an attorney before I took the bar. So I continued to work there. I started in 2001, became a licensed attorney in 2003, and I worked there until 2017. And specifically, my experience with local governments comes more on the litigation side and the day-to-day advice and management on liability issues. Through my work, both at Macklin-Burnshead, I did work with Fred, but very infrequently, thankfully, because I only worked with Fred when there was an issue regarding litigation that he needed to update the commission on and that sort of thing with respect to the city work. Most of the work that I did with the city was under Steve Johnson initially, and then through the insurance company, who is still your insurer now, but also the prior insurance companies, which is Preferred Governmental Claim Solutions. They only insure local government entities. So my day-to-day work with city employees and staff has been primarily in the areas of general liability, day-to-day advice, you know, if someone has an accident while at a city event, drafting and revising some policies related to liability issues, releases for, you know, the recreation programs and things of that nature, day-to-day advice and counsel on employment law matters with the employment and HR director, as well as employment and manager training, supervisor training, and all the employment and labor laws. In fact, we just had our training about 2 weeks ago for this year. And then we also provide training to staff and managers and supervisors with respect to the ethics laws as well as the public records training. And we kind of narrowly tailor that to what employees need to know, you know, and how it relates to their job as a city employee as far as government in the sunshine, public records requests, and that sort of thing. We also represent the city in any insured litigation currently, and that can involve anything from a trip and fall on a sidewalk that the city owns to police liability matters, and civil liability for any sort of criminal issues or employment law matters. We also represent the city in their workers' compensation claims currently, the defense of those, which are also handled by insurance. So typically my work before the commission which is why I may not be familiar to some of you, is, only if it's required to update the commission as far as ongoing litigation matters or things of that nature when a shade meeting has been requested. But due to our work for a number of insurance companies and other cities and municipalities and local governments in general, we're very familiar with the way cities operate and the way they need to operate and what things and issues you have to be looking for even when it comes to litigation. Mark also represented the town of Astatula, and when we were with Macklin, any other attorneys that represented cities, and they had issues that were sort of outside the purview of advising the commission and into litigation areas or day-to-day prevention of litigation, as I like to call it, areas. Many times I would have been brought in and worked together with the acting city attorney with those special issues. We actually currently continue that representation of the city. Since we opened our own firm in 2017, we have a separate consultation and contractor agreement where we still provide those services and we still do the work for your insurance company currently for any litigated matters that are covered by insurance.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
You answered numerous questions on the list, so you're helping us move along. That background on your experience was much more helpful than, I guess, the narrative. So, well, thank you very much. I guess, go in order. I'll just go start to my right, Ms. Commissioner Burry.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jimmy Burry from District 1. I noticed in the profile you sent to us that you've done extensive work in the community development districts with the villages. With our newfound partnership with the villages, is that going to bring about any conflict? How will that be handled if there is conflict? And along the same lines, Stephanie's represented a lot of staff. Is there any perceived conflict that could result from that with the city, and how will those things be resolved if it did happen?
So we do represent the numbered community development districts with the exception of 7. So we represent 1 through 6 and 8 through 14. I did list in our proposal response the potential for a conflict with District 14, only because District 14 is located in the city of Leesburg. And that conflict I don't perceive as being one that would be antagonistic to the city of Leesburg, but for purposes of the Florida Bar, it would be a conflict. And so what I'm saying is that I don't think there's anything that's going to come up in District 14 that's going to be a problem with the city of Leesburg and vice versa. It's just that sometimes things are going to come up. Things are going to be signed. The city of Leesburg passed the ordinance establishing the district. So when I say conflict, that's what I mean. Again, I don't think it's antagonistic conflict, but I think that certainly as part of disclosure, the city of Leesburg needs to know that I do represent, or that we do represent, a district that's located within the city of Leesburg. So for purposes of the conflict and how we would handle it, generally what happens is that the numbered district will need a document approved by the city of Leesburg. And so we certainly would bring that to the city's attention, and now you're aware that we represent District 14, and we would say, is this something you want to consent to a conflict waiver to? And we'd say it to both of you, District 14 and City of Leesburg. Do you want to waive the conflict so we can help you address this issue? And if not, then we would have to find somebody who would be a conflict attorney for that issue. Okay. You want to answer the other part?
Yes, and I can address the other issue. When I say that I work with city staff, I still represent the city as a commission,
Okay.
as a whole. So even though I work day to day with various department heads, I work with them in advising them how to comply with city policies and how to implement your directives. So if you say, we want this employment policy manual revised, and here's what we want to change. Or another example is I've worked with Mr. Minner recently regarding some retiree issues and that sort of thing. And we got together and met, and then, they request legal interpretation on the policies that the city has put in place, and that's where I advise them. I don't represent them personally. I will say that, and this isn't an exception, but it needs to be clarified. For example, we just actually won the defense in summary judgment on a police liability matter. And a lot of times when plaintiffs sue the city, particularly in the areas of police and fire, because you have a chief, occasionally a city manager if it's an employment issue, the plaintiff will name individually an officer or the police chief or something like that. And in this particular case, they named the city as well as a former detective with the city of Leesburg. The insurance company, the way that's handled is, after reviewing the facts, they decide if they're going to provide coverage for the officer as well as the city. And typically, most times, in particular with this one instance, there was nothing to suggest that the employee or officer was doing anything wrong or acting outside the course and scope of their employment. So the insurer defends them as well and pays for the defense. So at that point, I was representing both the city and the employee. But if it were ever to a point where there would be a conflict in me doing that, in other words, the employee didn't do what they were supposed to do and the city, isn't backing them in the defense of the lawsuit, at that point, I would not be able to represent both. I would only represent the city, and that individual employee would be required to get their own counsel.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll go to Commissioner Christian next.
Good afternoon. One of my concerns or questions would be, what role do you see your firm taking in this organization if you were selected as the city attorney? How much time, focus would you be able to give to the city of Leesburg?
Well, based on the average number of hours that we were provided for purposes of legal services for the city of Leesburg, we certainly have the ability to do that, and the city of Leesburg would have all of us. We're not going to, we didn't submit the proposal in response to the request to not be able to provide you with the services that this city needs. And so we take that seriously, and our firm takes that seriously. So if we were to be offered the contract to represent the city, you would be certainly getting all of us. Again, we didn't submit our proposal to not be able to provide that. We looked at how many hours you needed, and we also included, which I don't think was included in that, the hours that Stephanie provides currently under her contract, to make sure that based on what our schedules are and our workload are, to make sure that we would be able to provide the services that the city needs, and we're confident that we can.
Thank you. I'll go to Commissioner Roebuck next.
Thanks. Could you speak to any experience you have with any either electric or gas work, whether municipal or otherwise?
I don't have a lot of experience in that area. I did some small things with Fred, but it was years ago, so I am not up to speed in that area.
And I will just address just briefly, the only caveat to that is through representation of the villages, community development districts, and the insurance companies, again, we have been assigned to utility litigation from time to time, and general liability litigation and that sort of thing. So not completely unfamiliar, but we do, it's encompassed in the type of representation that we would expect, that we would become familiar with quite quickly.
Commissioner Cannell.
What factors do you consider to be most important when selecting a law firm?
Well, I think Commissioner Christian pointed it out when he asked the question, to make sure that we were going to be able to provide the time that we need to dedicate to the city to represent it effectively. And I think that's one of the things you should look at, and that is the firm. How busy are they? Are they going to be able to dedicate enough staff to service our needs? And the answer to that is yes. We have taken that into consideration, as I mentioned earlier, and we're comfortable and confident that we have sufficient staff, and including ourselves, between the type of work that we both do to cover every area necessary. And as Stephanie pointed out, if there's an area sort of like utilities or gas that we're not familiar with, we've been practicing quite a while. I've been practicing 18 years or so. It doesn't take us long to figure things out.
Commissioner Connell, I would just add as well that, you know, our firm's philosophy, I think, is sometimes lost. I mean, a lot of firms maybe have it, but it seems like in our area, sometimes it's lost, and that's common sense representation. And I feel like, you know, we do a good job of telling you what the pros and cons are and avoiding litigation if you have to, because it's going to be costly, and understanding those types of decisions. But at the same time, you know, we're not afraid of litigation, and I think a benefit of our firm is that the combined areas of experience that we have, if there's an issue on something, you know, with the commission and they need to initiate litigation on their own, we're not afraid to aggressively litigate, and we're not afraid to say to you, look, this is not something we should be wasting time and money on, or the city's time and money on, and litigating anymore. We need to just work to a resolution and use some common sense here and see if we can just get it done without, you know, all the formalities and the cost, especially of lawsuits.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Al, you want to join in on any questions? I thought earlier you said you wanted to be included.
With your work with the Village's CDD, what kind of work does that entail? Is it similar to the municipal stuff?
Yes, it is, except that obviously the community development districts have no purview over zoning and those sorts of things. So my representation of the numbered districts is I do this. I attend their meetings, all of their meetings, their monthly meetings, advise them on issues that may arise during the meetings. We handle contract issues, purchasing issues, again, sunshine law, public records, ethics. We provide training to them at no cost, which I believe we included in our packet, our response, which we would also do for the commissioners. So a lot of the work is the same, with the exception of the planning and zoning type things. They don't have code enforcement power, but they do have statutory authority to enforce deed restrictions, and they hold public hearings on those deed restrictions. So it's kind of the same process, code enforcement process. It's just not code enforcement. They are enforcing deed restrictions. We have the ability to file lawsuits. We have the ability to, at some point in time, record those orders of enforcement that are entered against a property owner in a public record as a lien. So it's similar but different. Chapter 190 governs the districts. And again, they don't have code enforcement power, but they do have similar power. So I would say the thing that's different is the zoning issues that they have no purview over.
Now, do you guys report to the specific CDD boards, or are you reporting to, like, what I call Village's HQ? Like,
so we represent the boards. We represent the board as a whole, like the city of Leesburg, but it would be Village Center District or Village District number 1, number 2. But in the same capacity, I know as a city attorney and as an attorney for the numbered districts, we provide advice and guidance to staff as well. We don't represent staff, but if an issue comes up, they contact us and we deal with staff to resolve the issue. Because obviously you can only deal with the board members or the supervisors either by phone individually, but they can't, all get together. I can't call them all at the same time to discuss an issue.
Thank you. You spoke about your litigation experience. Help me understand your background, your experience, real estate as it pertains to, purchase sale contracts, leases. You touched on the planning and zoning.
I've handled real estate transactions since 2004, so I'm completely familiar with that. When we started our own firm in 2017, I had all the experience. I prepared leases, commercial, residential. Like I said, I handle evictions, both commercial and residential. But it wasn't until 2017 when we started our own firm, we became licensed title agents. So now we handle real estate closings through our law firm and are in the process of establishing our own title agency as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Burry? Turn on your microphone.
Yeah, sorry guys. You guys have a lot of experience working with the city of Leesburg. What do you see as kind of down the road major issues to the city that your legal experts or experience will help us overcome?
Well, it seems to me lately the biggest issue is development, land development, PUDs, those sorts of things, rezoning, possibly annexations, those sorts of things.
And how are you equipped to deal with that?
I think that, based on my background, coming up essentially under Fred Morrison, under his wing, handling the planning and zoning matters for the city. I remember I worked with Bill Wiley. I've done some work with Dan Miller while I was at Macklin. Again, I attended those planning and zoning meetings. I'm familiar with the regulations. We're familiar with annexation, de-annexation. We've actually just recently had a couple of City of Tavares litigation matters where they were sued due to some de-annexation issues, and we represented them in that, so we're familiar in that area as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Christian.
Yes. Been on the commission for a while. We've had worked with a couple city managers. Your role as city attorney, of course, is hired by the city council. What would be your strength as it relates to your independence of working with the city manager, working with the city council, which may not be us five, and differentiating your role as a legal counsel, not being persuaded by public opinion or staff or commission, but representing us in the law? What are your strengths in those areas? And part two, kind of follow up with Commissioner Roebuck with, Leesburg is a very different type of city with the utilities as well as the airport. So what would your strengths to be to assist? I know you said you learn fast, but in this market, we probably couldn't make a mistake when it comes to utilities or airport. So kind of twofold questions, but.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question, and I will say that I have done work for the city of Leesburg in the airport over here. When I worked with Fred, I prepared the leases, hangar leases, and so I am familiar with that process. But generally, I think one thing that we've learned in our experience representing municipalities is that you have to, number one, you have to know who your client is. Your client is the commission. It's not one of you, it's all of you. It's not the staff, but at the same time, you have to, in order to effectively represent the city, you have to have a good relationship with the city manager and staff. You have to be accessible because, again, as I said earlier, we don't really get the opportunity to talk to the entire commission, but during the public meetings. Certainly, I can reach out to each of you individually and talk to you about certain issues, or you can reach out to me and talk to me about issues. But we can't all get together. So the only way to effectively represent the city would be through the city manager and working with the city manager and staff to address issues, to resolve issues, and certainly those issues that need to come before the commission would come before you. To keep the commission updated on what's happening within the city, whether that means reaching out to you again individually to talk to you about matters or as a whole when the commission meetings take place. So I think, again, based on experience, there has to be a very good relationship between the city manager and the city attorney. And I'm very familiar with the effect that the public can have on decisions made by commissions, councils, boards. Just based on the experience I have, again, representing the city of Leesburg, I've been in meetings where they're not always happy. The public is not always happy. But my job at that meeting is not to deal with the public, but to make sure that everything that's taken place is within the parameters of what can take place. Ensuring that the board, the commission, the council does not violate sunshine, that they're only hearing items that they're supposed to hear, that they are only voting on items that they're allowed to vote on, those sorts of issues. But I am familiar with how the public can be sometimes, and I've dealt with that my entire career. I dealt with it as a town attorney for the town of Astatula, which is a very small town, but those meetings, they could get pretty rowdy. I've dealt with it representing the school board, with Steve Johnson attending school board meetings where we've had to have individuals removed, unfortunately because of disruption of the meeting. So I've come across that, but I know what my role is, what my job is, and that's number one, and that is to represent the council, to make sure that they're doing what they need to do and they're not doing anything that they shouldn't be.
Yeah, thank you very much. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Commissioner Christian, also due to the fact that we have represented the city for so long in our careers, I always say as a baby attorney, I started representing the city. There's certainly been, a few different city managers in my tenure. There's been different department heads that I work with in HR and also in finance and just different areas altogether. And I think that it's important that we understand our role there is, again, it's not to represent that that city manager or that department head or that manager individually. It's how are we going to transition this to whoever has put in that position to make sure that the commission's wishes and policies are implemented in an effective way. And that's what we're there for. And obviously, like Mark said, we don't talk to all of you every day, pick up the phone and call, can't get all of you on the phone and say, hey, this is what's going to happen over here with this employment law and we're advising them this and that. We can't do that legally, but we know the policy that you want to be implemented and that you want to be effective. So we take that policy and your wishes that we already are aware of, and we implement that with a strategy to transition when we have different department heads or different city managers and that sort of thing. In the back of our mind, what we're always transitioning is what you all have decided that's the best for the city.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Roebuck.
Could you give me a specific example of a land use case where you've represented a municipality, and then a specific example where you've represented a private developer?
We don't represent the private developer side. We only represent the local government, and the specific example would be the City of Tavares matter, which was within the last year, I believe. It was a litigated matter where the City of Tavares was sued for an alleged failure of them to approve a contraction petition to de-annex from the city.
Commissioner Cannell, thank you.
Yes, what would be the biggest drawback for you if you were selected for this?
I don't think there's any drawback. I think it would be certainly beneficial for not only our firm, but for the city as well, just based on our background, the experience we have, and again, there's a wide range of experience that we have in the time that we've been practicing law. So again, sort of what Stephanie was talking about earlier about the background in litigation, and that comes up a lot, and it's helpful, and the reason it's helpful for representing boards is because those sorts of things that come before you, there's contracts that come before you, there's ordinances that come before you, resolutions, all that sort of business that you take on at these meetings, sometimes issues come up. And having the background in litigation, I think, would be beneficial to the city because we see things maybe before someone who doesn't have the litigation background would see it. We know that there's a potential issue and we know how to fix that issue before it happens.
Thank you. City Manager?
I'd like to follow up on your de-annexation issue with Tavares. I think Commissioner Burry and I had a de-annexation conversation informally just a week ago. And actually, Fred and I worked on a de-annexation potential issue between Leesburg and Fruitland Park. We didn't do that. And Fred was advised against it. So what was the parameters and with the Tavares issue, and what was the outcome?
Well, we were successful.
In not de-annexing?
Right, they didn't de-annex. They didn't even consider the petition. The complaint or the issue was there was a petition for de-annexation that was submitted. The council didn't take any action on it. Rather, Bob Williams, working with the head planning and zoning, determined that it wasn't something that could be approved and denied it. And so the argument was, there was several arguments, one of them being due process and the statutes and how the statutes read. The plaintiff's take on it was that the council was required to have an official meeting and consider the application and deny it, and then provide them notice within the time limits within the statutes. So that was the issue. It went on for some time. We defended it based on the statutes, based on case law, and really specifically based on the ordinances that the city of Tavares had passed. And we found within those ordinances some language that really gave the city attorney some leeway on handling things. And really the city manager was able to delegate certain things to the city attorney. And one of the arguments we made was that through that statute, not through the statute, through the ordinance, the city as a whole had given the city manager authority to delegate these things to certain individuals, and the authority was granted to Bob Williams as the city attorney to deny it. And so that's one of the arguments we made. Again, we were successful. The case was dismissed. I think they asked for a rehearing a couple times. The first time the judge granted the rehearing, they lost again. And then I think they requested maybe another one. I can't recall. But anyway, it was kind of ongoing, but they lost at every stage. And so that's what that issue was about.
And primarily, that just to dive a little more into the contraction statutes, basically what they were arguing is that, you know, like Mark said, the city didn't make a recommendation or review any of the criteria in the statute, but we made the argument that the city couldn't, because the statute very clearly, in the plain language of it, reads that if the parcel that they're wishing to exclude from the city boundaries meets the annexation criteria at the time they file their petition to de-annex, then it can't be de-annexed. So the legislature had already said, hey, cities, if you're getting a contraction petition and the land that they're requesting be removed from the city limits meets the criteria to be annexed, you have no discretion to go over these factors. It must not be de-annexed. And that was, you know, a primary argument. And I think their beef was, one of their arguments was a beef with the statute. And, you know, the city of Tavares isn't the legislature. And so, you know, that was one of the things that we pointed out over and over. And I think that the judge really picked up on was that the plain language of the statute says what it says. And you can't read all this other stuff in there just because they don't like what the statute says. So that was pretty much that one. But I think it did go on for about a year and a half, but we stood our ground, and thankfully it's over.
Okay, thank you. We're running out of time here, so let me ask, I guess, the final question. Help the commission understand why we should select your firm over the other firms. We're interviewing 4 firms.
Well, like we mentioned in the beginning, we've worked with the city of Leesburg for a long time. We've enjoyed working with the city of Leesburg. Even though our office now is in Tavares, we lived in the city of Leesburg for a number of years. We actually even recently coached a girls softball team last year in the city as well. And we have ties to the community here. We love the community here, but we also like to provide practical legal advice, and we always joke with clients and say, you know, combined we make one really good lawyer. But I think that on our own, we're both very practical, and our clients are typically very happy with the services that we give, and we don't, you know, create more issues just to do more work to make more money. And all those bad lawyer jokes that you hear, we really, truly, you know, and I always joke in litigation when somebody wants a settlement, say, we pay the kind that jingles, not the kind that folds. So if your intent to attack the city is to somehow, you know, secure money or do something improper, you know, we're not just going to roll over and pay somebody money because they are trying to attack what you're doing. Our goal is to prevent litigation for the city, to advise you to make wise choices, and let you know what the ramifications are if you make choice A versus choice B. Ultimately, it comes down to your decision, but our job is to make sure that you know ahead of time what the effects of that decision is going to be, whether it's, you know, to meet with individuals to try to resolve an issue that you may have, or whether it's to start litigation to protect the city's interests, or to, you know, take your chances on possibly getting sued and having to defend the city's interests. Our goal is always to give you the best legal advice we can in a way that's understandable, a common sense approach. And also, we're very creative in thinking of solutions and trying to find a way to think outside the box to make something happen that's within the confines of the law. And I think that's probably our best factor. And the next thing I would say is that we pride ourselves in being accessible to our clients. And I know we put it in the response to the proposal as well. But, you know, we have cell phones, and we understand that there are emergencies. We understand that there are issues that may need attention on a Saturday or a holiday or after 5 or before 9. And we have no problem with being accessible to our clients to make sure that you are getting the attention that you need and those issues resolved before they become bigger issues.
I would just add one thing, not just based on our experience, but I think in representing local governments, we are familiar with how budgets work. And we take steps, we're always putting our client first when it comes to billing. We always review billing to make sure for accuracy and to make sure it's fair. I mean, it may take us some time to do something, but many times we look at it and say, well, it took us this much time, but maybe it shouldn't have, and we cut. So we're very conscious about that, about the budgets, and we're familiar with the number of hours, again, that you're going to need, and our proposal was sort of based on that. I know we put some language in there about using paralegals as well when necessary. So we always make sure that we are fair and that our clients are happy, and again, knowing budget constraints and how things work, learning that from, again, 18, 19 years of experience representing local governments, we do take that into consideration.
Yeah, thank you very much. We started a few minutes late, so we do have just a few more minutes if any of the commissioners have any last questions.
I have one quick one. So you made a comment about sometimes you give us the best advice. So how do you handle a situation where legally you and the council don't agree on a legal path?
The two of us disagree on something?
No, you and us.
Oh, well, you know, as lawyers, I learned very early that our job is to provide the best advice that we can. We can tell you what the law is and what you should do, but we can't do it for you. So long as we discuss the options with you, provide you with the best legal advice, and let you know what the outcome of that could be, you as a whole, there's 5 of you, have to decide how it is you want to proceed with it. Again, I think we would certainly do the best we could, and like Stephanie said, look, we're creative. If you want something done, we're going to do the best we can to try and figure out a way to get it done and get it done the right way. But if we're to that point to where for instance, earlier, where there was this contraction petition, and we had already won a couple times. The judge had already said to the plaintiff, no, you lose. Okay, no, you lose again. You know, once you get to that point, there's only so much you can do other than say, this is where we're at, and this is probably what he's going to do next. How do you want to proceed? And certainly, you know, it's up to you. You are the commission. You make the decisions. You know, you deal with the budget. You deal with how much you want to spend on a particular item, whether you want to continue to defend something, you know, those sorts of things. So I think, again, our job would be to provide you with the best possible advice, solution options, and outcomes, potential outcomes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and wrap up. We really appreciate your interest, your proposal for city attorney, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you all, and good luck.
Thank you all.
Yeah, and next steps, as you know, we have 3 more firms to interview, and the plan is to discuss this item at the February 28th commission meeting and hopefully make a final decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, hello and welcome. I'm Mayor Mike Peterson. We're going to start with Mike's going to make a few comments, and then we'll go to the city manager.
Go. Wait for Jay, or?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Mike Thornton. I'm the purchasing manager. I have a brief opening statement to make, and then I'll turn it over to our city manager, Al Minner. Today is February 21st, 2022. This is the interview meeting between the City of Leesburg and the Vos Law Firm for request for proposal 220042 for city attorney services. An interview session has been scheduled with the 4 top-ranked firms. This is the second of those 4 interviews. This interview provides an opportunity for the Vos Law Firm to address each of the questions asked by the commissioners. The interview is scheduled for 45 minutes. The time will start when the first question has been asked. The interview questions have not been provided to any of the 4 firms. And with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to our city manager.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. The first one was just procedural, so that worked pretty good with the first firm. So.
Okay. Yeah, we stumbled a little bit out of the gate on the first one on what to do procedurally, but we have kind of a prepared list of questions that were put together. Not that we're going to go through each and every one of them, but we're going to just rotate and take turns asking questions. They may or may not come off this list, but I'm just going to start and just ask for kind of just a background, give the commission your background, your qualifications, experience.
Okay, I'm Becky Vos, and I'm the founding partner of the Vos Law Firm. And with me today is Wade Vos, who
Good
is,
afternoon, everyone.
And he's my son and my law partner, and he's actually currently the county attorney for Okeechobee County, the city attorney for South Daytona, and village attorney for the village of Indiantown, which is the state of Florida's newest municipality. And then Nancy Stuparich lives in, she's my partner. She lives in Claremont, but she is city attorney for the city of Naples. And our firm represents cities all over the state. The way we handle our cities is unique. We represent cities on a flat fee basis, doing all their work, including all their complex litigation, all the everything. And that works so well for every one of our cities. We now are city attorney for 9 different cities. We're county attorney for 1 county. And the way we make it work, I mean, and obviously each city pays us a different amount. The city of Naples has Nancy, and we also have Ralph Brooks down there, who's an assistant city attorney for Naples. And they have litigation out the yin-yang. I mean, they kind of go crazy down there. And they pay accordingly, and we knew that ahead of time. When we make our presentations and our proposals to cities, we research what the cities are like, as far as, litigation history, the sort of meetings that y'all have. We go back and we watch them. And I've been practicing local government law for 48 years, and I have a very good feel for what it takes for us to totally cover every bit of work for our cities. And I've never been really off on this. It works. It really works. We do not starve. You may think, in every one of our cities, you might contact our clients, either the references that we have in our proposal, or you could contact any elected official, any staff member for any of our cities or our county and ask them what they think of us. And they will tell you that they really like us. And we get the work done, we do it in a timely way, and we watch out for them. We do not believe that it's appropriate for a city attorney to make extra money if there is litigation, because often litigation is because somebody, certainly not always, but some attorney made a little mistake and all of a sudden the city's in litigation. Well, we shouldn't be thanked for that by having more legal fees. You know, we think it's a conflict of interest to get more fees if somehow we possibly messed up and pulled you into litigation. So we don't do it. We don't have that conflict. We're very proud of our firm. Our clients love us. And I'm sincere. You ought to pick up the phone and find out for yourself what our cities think of us. And we would love to be the city attorney for Leesburg. And I guarantee you, if we're fortunate enough to get this, we will do an awesome job for you. It's a little summary.
No, thank you very much. So next I'm going to go to Commissioner Burry.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jimmy Burry, District 1. Since you've applied for the position, you've probably been following things happening in Leesburg, and I'm just curious what you see as our major issues going forward that your expertise can help us to face.
Okay, well, I know that there is a lot of development going on. And I will tell you that we look at historic issues, and we don't, well, one thing that we don't do, we know we are not city commissioners, so we don't try to figure out what issues are going to come up in the future, because y'all tell us what the issues are, and we deal with it that way. But we have probably a total with all of our attorneys. We've got 7 attorneys, 7 local government attorneys. And by the way, that's all we do. We don't, dabble in wills. We don't dabble in other civil litigation. We do city work. So we have extensive experience with development work. And frankly, if you look at our proposal, you'll see that we have extensive experience in virtually every aspect of local government law. So you tell us what the issue is, we take care of it.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Christian.
Yes, hello, Ms. Foss Law Firm. What role do you see your firm taking in our organization? And if you could just highlight as well your experience with CRAs and dealing with blighted areas.
Okay. All right. Well, we deal with CRAs on a very regular basis. We have them in Cocoa Beach. We have them in Naples. We have them in Brooksville. I actually represent the CRA in the city of Bradenton. Now, we're not city attorney in Bradenton, but they like my expertise so well with regard to CRAs, we got hired to do that work. So just an extensive background with that. Our role, and like I say, I've been doing this for so long, I've developed what I would call my philosophy of local government representation. And that basically is that we know we're not city commissioners. We do not bring to the table any ideas of what y'all should do. You tell us what you want to accomplish, and we find a way to do it. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen city attorneys say, nope, you can't do that, or nope, that's not legal, without creatively coming up with a way to accomplish it. But what we do, what we believe is our role, is to figure out how to accomplish your goals, not my goals, your goals, in a legally defensible manner. And if that happens, typically, there's no litigation over it. But if there is, I will tell you what our philosophy of litigation is. We go for the jugular. There are a lot of lawyers who write lengthy memorandums of law, motions to the court, and charge by the hour, charge by the hour, charge by the hour. They have deposition after deposition after deposition. We spend our time figuring out a strategy that's going to win. And honestly, we spend a lot less time on litigation than your normal attorney who would just plod through the stuff. We don't take extra depositions. We don't write extra motions. Our goal is to get in there, figure out a winning strategy, take whatever discovery we need to do, go in for motions for summary judgment. If it's not amenable to that, set it for trial. And I'm typically the litigator in the firm. You know, I will go to trial, win the case, and then it's over. So when y'all talked about 700 hours is what you anticipated we would be spending, my thought is we probably won't spend that much time because honestly, we know how to do it. We get things done quickly. It is a rare situation when we are asked, for instance, to draft an ordinance. Our files, you know, online have just about every type of ordinance you could ever want, and we can knock those things out very quickly. Whereas a law firm that doesn't specialize in this and doesn't have the depth of field that we have, it can take a really long time. So anyway, I think that we offer a lot. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Commissioner Roebuck.
Thank you. And forgive me because I know this was in your packet, but I don't have that with me. Who specifically is going to be serving as the Leesburg city attorney? So you're going to be attending
personally.
the meetings?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I had it.
Yes.
Okay.
It'll be me.
Right, okay. So in that case, could you speak to any specific experience you have representing either electric or gas utilities, municipal or otherwise?
Yes. Probably my biggest involvement was the city of St. Cloud. I was city attorney for the city of St. Cloud for a lengthy period of time, and they had its own electric utility system. And they decided, the city commission down there decided that they wanted to go with OUC. So I stepped in and I negotiated with OUC the transition from a local electric company to being taken over by their Land Utilities Commission. And oh my gosh, a lot of work, an awful lot of work. And I was doing that on a flat fee basis, and whew, I didn't see that coming. But, you know, it is what it is. We take, you know, we sometimes, you know, in theory, we lose money on one city, but we make it up with another one. But in that instance, you know, it took a massive amount of time, but hey, we went in and we told them we'd do it for a flat fee, so I did. So yeah, I have a lot of experience on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Cannell.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, I apologize. I might have missed it in your opening remarks. It's two questions. Where's your closest office to Leesburg? And do you currently represent anyone that you foresee could be a conflict of interest with the city?
Okay, that's a very good question. Well, since we do not do private legal work, we have no conflicts in that way. We do not represent any Lake County municipalities, so we wouldn't have any conflicts there. But the closest office, well, Nancy lives in Claremont. She works at home. I live in Claricona, if you know where Claricona is, right next to Apopka. You know where Apopka is? Okay, that's where I live, which is, you know, a hop, skip, and a jump from here. And yeah, so I guess my house, I looked when I came and I put it into Waze, it was 28 miles. And I think Nancy's is like 26 or something.
Maybe 23. I live right out, thank you. I live right outside of the downtown area, the CRA. I live it and I enjoy it, and I love seeing the changes that can happen in a CRA. So I'm very close. It's about a 30-minute drive. It's nothing.
Yeah, it's nothing to me. And all of our attorneys have no problem driving. Usually, my husband's retired. Usually, not today, but usually my husband drives me to places, so I sit and I work while I'm being driven. But as far as being able to attend meetings and be here when you need somebody, we're there when you need somebody. We absolutely are. And, you know, this is kind of interesting. Other than the town of Oakland and other than Orange County, because we've represented Orange County on and off, well, actually, never off, but continuously since 1983, since 1993, it's a long time. Other than Oakland and Orange County, you would be our geographically closest client, which, oh my gosh, we were so excited when this came up. You know, we feel like this is hometown to us. I mean, when we went to Naples, that's a hike. That truly is a hike. But hey, we do it. And Okeechobee's a hike. Indiantown's a hike. Bunnell is a hike. Leesburg isn't a hike. It's a stroll down the road. So we're happy about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, City Manager. Any questions?
I don't.
Okay. I actually don't have any. Your background obviously has made it difficult for me to come up with any more questions. Burry?
Yeah, just kind of a follow-up to something Dan asked, that when I read the packet, it said that you were going to use a collaborative approach.
Yes.
Your words.
Yes.
But today you're telling me you're going to be our attorney?
I'm going to be
I
the
thought
one
that
attending
meant-
meetings. What we try to do is have consistency at the meetings. Now, we have been extremely blessed. Of the 7 lawyers we have, one of them has gotten COVID over the last 2 years.
Sure.
But, you know, who knows? You know, I might come down with it, in which case, you know, Wade would come or Nancy would come to the meetings.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, but we do use a collaborative approach. That's how we get things done quickly, and that's why we can be so thorough. We have an attorney, his name's Garrett Olson, who is unbelievably good at code enforcement. And we would use him for code enforcement here. We all kind of have our little niches. I'm a litigator, and I also go to a lot of meetings. But yeah, we collaborate on things, and I will tell you that I keep my finger, and Wade does too, in every one of our 9 cities in 1 county, so that in case one of us gets sick, or heaven forbid a Mack truck comes along, don't even like to think about it, there is not a hiccup at all. And we stay on the phone and we text each other and have conference calls all the time, you know, because such and such a city, something came up, I need some ideas, you know, and we all get on the phone, all of our attorneys, and, you know, oh, well, that just came up in Bunnell 2 weeks ago. Yeah, this is what we did and it worked great. And then, you know, send me the ordinance or send me the resolution, whatever it is. So yes, without the collaboration, we could not make it all work.
Okay.
And it
I
does.
was more concerned when I read that. I thought it might mean one of the three of you would come to our meeting, not.
No.
We will have.
No, I'm planning, I mean, I do take vacations, not often.
Sure.
But, you know, somebody else would be here.
Sure.
And I tend not to get sick, but if I got sick, somebody else would be here.
Thank you.
Can I add to that a little bit?
Sure.
Because I am the one that travels the most. I do serve the city of Naples, and it's a 4-hour drive on a good drive down there. And when we first acquired the city, I was concerned because I'm going to be 4 hours away from my partners, from my friends, from my family, but it has not been a lonely experience. And the reason for that is, yes, we collaborate on legal issues. We discuss when something new comes up in Naples that maybe I'm not familiar with, I pick up the phone, and one of the 7 will have experienced that in one way or another. It's collaborative, but we function as a team. It's very seamless. If there's something that I can't get done because I've got another pressing issue with one of my council members, somebody else is able to pick the ball up and run with it because we've been in communication on what the issues are in the city of Naples. And I think the same would be true regarding the issues in Leesburg. And I'm going to take it one step further. We talked about collaboration. We talked about teamwork, but we're also somewhat of a family. You know the actual relationship between Becky and Wade, but the rest of us, we feel like we're part of that family too. And if there's a call at 1 o'clock in the morning, somebody's going to respond to it. So I just wanted to share that with you because that's been my experience with the firm, and I find them to be very ethical, very professional, and that's what we would be providing to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Commissioner Christian?
Just a thought, and I know you have a plan and a program, as you see, in Naples, 4 hours travel. Have you ever thought about a brick and mortar office location here in Leesburg? Just in case something arises, or we have a long meeting or a 2-day meeting. I know POP is not as far, Clerical is not as far as Naples, but has that been any kind of thought, consideration if you were to assume the contract? And out of the 9 cities, I know you said Naples, Brooksville.
I can give you the list of them.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if you go on the East Coast, the furthest north is Bunnell in Flagler County.
Okay.
And then we have Daytona Beach Shores in Volusia. We have South Daytona in Volusia. Okay. We have Cocoa Beach in Brevard. We have, actually, I didn't mention it, but we represent a recreation district, which is one of our. It's a special
weird
district.
Little district.
It's a weird district.
Not in a bad
but
way.
it's,
Legally, it's a
yeah. Legally, it's very unique. But that's Barefoot Bay in Brevard, and then in Martin County we've got Indiantown, and then in going across the state we've got Okeechobee County, and then up we've got Brooksville, which is in Hernando County. And then we have Anna Maria, which is a barrier island community on the Tampa Bay, and then Naples. And I think I hit them all.
We have the Oakland.
Oh, and Town of Oakland, I'm sorry.
Oakland.
Yeah, because
very close.
Town of Oakland is like in my backyard. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you. Commissioner Roebuck?
Yeah, could you tell us about a specific city or other entity that left as a client and why?
That we left?
No, that you left, or that, or specifically, I guess that left you, that didn't renew your contract, and why?
Yes, I will tell you that the city of Deltona, which is in Volusia County, I have been city attorney there for 7 years. I got ill. I got recurrent mononucleosis, which if you've, I had mononucleosis when I was in college, and I got a recurrence of it. You don't ever want to do that, particularly at my age. I was sick in bed for about 6 weeks, and Wade took over that. And honestly, he was too spread out. It just did not work because it was a city of 97,000 residents, okay? It was very time consuming, and it was very, how can I say it? Y'all seem like a very collegial body. I mean, just when I went to the meeting, everybody was so polite and so, and I've watched your meetings, online. At Deltona, not so much. Unfortunately, it was like people were spitting at each other. I mean, it was
emotionally taxing.
It was emotionally taxing, which might have been the reason for getting sick like that.
We read about them.
Anyway, but that's what was going on. So yes. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Cannell?
Yes, things come up daily, obviously, with the city. Either staff has questions, city manager has questions, or maybe even a city commissioner has questions. How accessible is staff to phone calls or responding back to emails on something, kind of need to know something like yesterday?
Oh, absolutely. No, and you're not alone in that. I mean, I have my phone is on mute right now, and luckily today is a holiday for most of our cities. Some of them are working today, actually, but I answer my phone when it rings. If I'm on a conference call, I will real quick text you, I'll call back, and I call immediately back. I mean, that is crucial. When I get emails, I answer them. I mean, we beat this into everybody's head. I mean, all the lawyers in our firm do that. You cannot put somebody off because, well, for one thing, if you put somebody off, it's going to hang over your head. And, in order to have a fast-paced practice like we have, we can't let things fill up in an in basket. We have to empty them out. I personally don't go to sleep at night until everything is done for that day. I mean, I don't put it off till tomorrow because there'll be other stuff going on tomorrow. And I know Wade's got 3 young daughters, and after he puts the daughters to bed, he's texting me and we're emailing back and forth, 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever, but we all do that. He's lucky enough to be able to take a little time off to be with his daughters from 6 until when they go to bed at 9. But, other than that, we're a little bit obsessive about our work, which I think you kind of have to be to have the practice that we have.
We just love what we do. And the more we do it, the more it motivates us to do more. I hate to say it that way, but the 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's not something that's uncommon because we've got to get it done. And we're in this with you. And, Becky had talked previously about litigation. We want you to win because when you win, we win, everybody wins. And we're very strong about that.
I'm going to be more informal now and just let any of the commissioners ask any questions they may have. Okay, Mike has a question.
One thing, you mentioned you don't dabble in civil. What's your experience with real estate, property leases, which we have a ton of?
We do that.
And code enforcement forfeitures.
Okay, well, code enforcement forfeitures, we have done those. We are Orange County's exclusive law firm we do all of their code enforcement foreclosures. Okay? And what were the other ones you mentioned?
Just real estate.
Well, we do, I have an extensive background, and so does Wade, and so does Nancy. I need to have her address that too. But complex real estate transactions, do them all the time. We just had a closing for Daytona Beach Shores. We're about to have one in Cocoa Beach. Yes, we're very, our depth is, really strong. And Nancy has an incredible experience with real estate.
Well, I had the opportunity earlier in my career to work for 2 different title insurance companies, which you can make or break a transaction based on, if title's appropriate or not. And that kind of got me into the zoning area, which caused me to go back to Florida State to get a master's in urban and regional planning. And I stumbled across the Florida League of Cities. And working at the Florida League of Cities, I am so proud of the fact that I got to work on Civic Hall. That is the Florida League headquarters in the middle of downtown Tallahassee, adjacent to the Florida Capitol. And to me, that was a huge accomplishment in my career.
Any other questions, commissioners?
Yeah, could you speak about maybe a particularly challenging zoning case that you've had to deal with? Just land use in general.
Okay, we are dealing with one right now in Naples having to do with height. I don't know how familiar you might be with the city of Naples, but there are skyscrapers there. But several years ago, they passed a charter amendment saying 42 feet. End of story. So we've got a lot of litigation with regard to that. We are in the process of drafting some workarounds, addressing exceptions to the height provision in the charter for hospitals and parking garages, which they need both of those desperately, and 42 feet doesn't work well for either one of those. And by the way, the city of, oh help me, that hired me to rewrite their zoning code.
Oh, Indian River Shores.
Indian River Shores hired me in particular to rewrite their zoning code, which I did. So we have just extensive experience on that. The town of Oakland, which, as I said, is basically in my backyard, they are going gangbusters with development right now. And the reason why they are, they're in West Orange County, all the way over to the Lake County border. They never had sewer, so they couldn't develop. So it just kind of sat there, in 1950s land until they worked a deal with the city of Claremont to, Oakland has its own transmission lines, but Claremont treats the sewage. So when they put the sewer lines in, it just exploded with growth. And so we do all the development agreements, we do all that. I mean, just, we annex it, we zone it, we will comp plan it, zone it, do the development agreements, negotiate all that. So, yes. And when I was at City of Orlando, this is back in the 70s, I was the attorney who represented the zoning department, and I've kept up that type of work.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Wade Vos. I'm the managing partner. I haven't spoken much today, but I wanted to add on. Becky hit on some probably the most interesting ones we're dealing with right now with regard to zoning. I just wanted to add a couple more. In Cocoa Beach, we just went through, it was a multi-year process. It ended up being for what is going to end up being about a $500 million hotel and conference project that is going in right on the ocean in Cocoa Beach. That involved years of going through, and there being charter amendments first, because like Naples, they had similar provisions, having some limitations there. Charter amendments, then going through the comp plan, or rewriting parts of the comp plan and LDRs to accommodate it, and then going through the actual comp plan and rezoning process with that. Highly controversial, as you can imagine, but got it through without any challenges there. In addition, you mentioned the Village of Indiantown, which is the newest municipality in the state. I'm the village attorney down there, and I had the fun job of, when we started up there, we didn't have a comp plan, we didn't have land development regulations, we didn't have anything. And in the couple years since they came to exist, whole comprehensive plan developed and had to go through multiple ringers of our office's review. Again, land development regulations all put together, our office's review, and then we got to put those to the test with an 800-acre, it's big for little Indiantown, 800-acre project coming in to get a master development agreement for them to be able to put up thousands and thousands of homes, and got it through, again, a very watched in all of Martin County and that part of South-ish Florida. Got that project through, again, very, very high interest, somewhat controversial, got it all through without any hubbub. So we do it every day.
Just a quick question. Your experience with airports? I mean, are you experienced with airports?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll take it, yeah. We mentioned that our firm and I serve as county attorney for Okeechobee County. And Okeechobee County has an airport. I had previously done a little bit of FAA work for the town of Pearson in Volusia, but that really doesn't count. It's a grass field, really. There's not much to be done there, but we've done an extensive amount of work working with the Okeechobee Airport, which is wholly owned and a department of Okeechobee County, in helping the airport director jump through the hoops of the different FAA regulations that encumber the grant conditions that come along with any sort of money that would come from the FAA that are going to govern what you can use that land for, and how you've got to lease it out to individual folks who may want a hangar there or what have you. And also, we had to deal with some litigation issues. These were left over from the prior county attorney that we had to dive into, that involved extensively digging into the application of those grant conditions, how the FAA, how the local district office of the FAA, which even for Okeechobee County is up in Orlando, how they enforce those, how they deal with those, and how those interacted with the litigation that we had going on. Fortunately, that all, if you'll pardon the pun, came in for a landing pretty well, and that litigation's all over. But we deal with airport issues every day. And I will tell you, that is not incredibly common for local government attorneys. Not every city and county has an airport of their own. But we've been fortunate these last many years to have been able to dive in deep and get a lot of experience on that.
and also, the city of Naples does not, well, they own the land under the airport. They do not operate it. There is a separate authority, but there is a lot of interaction between the city of Naples and the authority. And also, there are a lot of issues there with regard to flyover. The noise issues, and that's a toughie. Particularly just in the last, I think I just recently read, in the last 2 or 3 years, the number of flights has massively increased in and out of the city of Naples airport. And so the people who live in their multi-million-dollar homes down there aren't real happy, about that. But then again, those same people are the ones who are flying in, so.
The issues are very similar. Not only noise, but we also have the grant issues, and we also look at it from a planning perspective as far as the long-term plan for the airport authority as well as for the city and how the two interact. I know Wade has dealt with those issues as well, and that's just an example of how we work together. When I get a grant issue, I'm calling Wade.
Yeah, go ahead, Al.
And I got to ask my question with a question first. Did you say you guys worked in Indian River Shores in
Yes.
Indian River County?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was hired to rewrite their zoning code.
Were you guys, you just did that? Were you active with?
That's all we did.
Okay, so you weren't active with them when they had all the issues with Vero Beach Electric and the franchise
No,
issues?
no, did not.
No.
No, they had, I don't remember how I got it, frankly. But anyway, I was asked to rewrite the zoning code, which I did.
Who was the city manager then?
I don't remember.
It was almost a decade ago.
Yeah, it was
Oh, was
about,
it a
it was
decade ago?
probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I'll conclude with a closing question unless any other commissioners have any other questions. So I'll just close with, tell us, the commission, why we should choose your firm over the three other firms.
Okay, well, I never say anything about another law firm. I mean, it's not seemly to do that. But I don't know that you would find any firm that had more experience or more passion for what we do. I did see there is one firm which has a lot of experience, and they're from Maitland, which is kind of in our backyard. And I saw their proposal, and you ought to ask what standard litigation is, because, I mean, other than a code foreclosure, just most litigation is non-standard. And when we commit to doing work, including all litigation, it means all litigation. So, I would suggest that you go with a, basically an exclusive local government firm. And you might want to ask questions about, do you represent individual clients against other local governments, which we don't. We get called all the time. We're having a problem. We don't represent the city of Maitland. We're having a problem with the city of Maitland. Can you help us? No, I'm sorry, we can't. We stay on our side of the fence. We never attack other local governments. It's just not something we do. It's not seemly. Also, you end up, if you're in court, and you're in court in front of one judge, and last week you argued against a city in front of that judge, and then, the next week you come back and you're telling a different story to the judge because the issues are common. You just can't do that. And so I think we're kind of special in that. We're the only ones who have that philosophy.
And our city manager has another question.
You went back to it, so it made me think this, because you keep talking about the flat fee and same for litigation. So are you
including litigation.
So are you guys familiar with our action with Tico's People's Gas?
No, but
we ended up in like quasi-litigation
okay.
with
well,
the
we
Public
do it.
Service Commission.
That's fine.
So that
That's
would have been
fine.
covered under your flat fee?
Absolutely, it would be. Absolutely. And it is the sort of thing like I talked to you about St. Cloud. Sometimes we end up with, why did we do this? I'm going to shoot my brains out. But, we do it, and then it's over, and we are, happy as clams.
Things that come up, I mean, like Becky said, that would be a radical project, some extraordinary project in a lot of other contexts. We just take it in stride and do it. In the village of Indiantown, okay? When we signed up down there, new municipality, we knew we were going to have to go through the stuff, comprehensive plan, new LDRs and all this stuff. Well, it just happened to be that they also decided they were going to buy the local water utility.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Well, acquiring a utility is its its own wild animal and takes an incredible amount of time from the due diligence standpoint for the engineers and all that, but also for on the legal side. And we said, all right, guess we're doing this. So we had had a lot of experience in the office historically in
Yeah,
utility
I've done
acquisitions
a lot of
and so
that, yeah.
and so we dove in and did it. Again, we can't anticipate everything, but we were happy to do it and it worked out great. So,
With regards to that, so say that particular issue, you say, yeah, okay, we'll do this. And we say, well, we appreciate that, but this is so outside of the things you normally do. We want to hire someone
That's
to
fine.
deal with it. You that would not be a problem. I mean, and
That would absolutely be fine.
You'd work with them, as
Yes,
needed.
absolutely. And that has happened. And we work in Naples right now. They decided that they wanted somebody on this one particular.
Sure. It's a redevelopment project for the Naples Beach and Golf Club. And when we were hired, they had already had outside counsel with the Osley firm in Tallahassee. And so we augmented that approach. And then the last minute, we hired some additional counsel because we need to bring that project to a completion. It's basically the negotiation of a conservation easement that's very near and dear to the heart of many in the community. So we have no problem working with outside counsel.
We enjoy that.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, well, thank you for your interest in the city attorney position, your proposal, and for your time today.
thank you very much.
Yes, so in concluding, this is the second of 4 interviews. We have 2 more on Wednesday, and then the plan is the city commission will discuss this item at Monday, February 28th meeting, and hopefully make a final decision.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you again.